All right. Hello, everyone on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Today we're talking about systems, and I have a very special guest, David. Welcome to, I can't even call it a podcast. Still used to saying that. Welcome to the live with me. Today we're going to talk about your book, Systemology, and we're going to talk all about systems. I'm excited for this one because, as we know, goals don't matter if you don't have systems to obtain them. So, let's get into it, David. Tell the people a little bit about yourself and then why systemology.
Yeah, perfect. So I've been a business owner all my life, involved in lots of different businesses. There's always been a thread of systems and processes. It wasn't until my last business where I got trapped in the day to day operations for way too long. It was a digital agency. For some reason, I thought that business was different. My I thought my team wouldn't follow the processes because we were creative and that Google was always changing. So what was the point about putting a system in place? I had all of these excuses and then kind of got to that point where I thought, no, enough's enough. We just found out we were pregnant. And I thought, I don't want to be that dad who's always too busy because I was working so many hours in the business. And I pretty much focused in on the systems, got myself out of the day to day operations, and then took a year off. And in that time out, I thought, what do I really want to do? Like I'd fallen out of love with the digital agency work. I ended up putting my CEO in. She was one of the team. We kind of elevated her up to that position. And that was when I just started to think about and launch Systemology. And going through that process made me realize this is a challenge that a lot of business owners have. They get stuck in the operations, they can't break free. And I felt
Mhm.
like a calling to do some work in this space. That was the start of the book. And fast forward, we're about 6 years in now and worked with many thousands of business owners around the world. The book's been a great success. And I'm just now starting to make some final new distinctions, especially with all the changes we're seeing with AI.
Oh man, yeah, that's a good one, and thanks for sharing that, David. And I know we said business owners, but really this can be applied to anyone in any capacity because, as I said, you need systems for sustained success to avoid the burnout, to avoid the falling out of love, as you said, to avoid spending countless hours, doing monotonous tasks that can probably be automated. So, business leaders, workers, whoever you are, stay tuned because we're gonna break this down a little bit more. So in your book, you have like a process that you recommend we follow, and I'm gonna let you talk about it because you can discuss it a lot better than I am. So do you want to just walk us through succinctly of what that process looks like, and then I can we can follow through after you do that.
Yeah, for sure. So the process is really aimed at giving someone a starting point. Oftentimes, when you get started with systems and processes and building culture and getting the team on board and getting things documented, a lot of people go, oh, but I don't know where to start. What are the first few systems that I put in place? And how do I do that? How do I get the knowledge out of people's heads? Where am I going to store that knowledge? And how do I get my team to follow the process? And at what point do we look to improve those processes? So this systemology process, it's a 7-step process designed to take you through those steps and really just focus in on the most critical things to get this off the ground. So the first step is define, and it is a way to uncover the first 10 to 15 systems that you should document. It centers around how the business attract new clients into your world, how they convert it, and then how they deliver the core product or service. So we do a very high level overview of that. That's that first step, define. Second step is assign. We just think about, well, of the tasks that we just identified, who on the team knows how to do it really well already? Like what is currently being done? And we actually end up moving to the next step, step 3, which is extract, where we capture just what it is currently being done. So we don't try and reinvent the wheel. We just go, well, who does it the best? Let's capture what they're doing. Let's bring everybody up to that standard so we make our business more repeatable. Because a big part of the whole 7-stage process is to make sure that we don't have any key person dependency in the business.
Mm-hmm.
So the extraction, and we can talk a little bit more about that perhaps a bit later, because that's the one that's changed the most with AI.
But they
But
are okay.
after extraction, then there's organization. That's all about, and once we've pulled this information out of the brains of the team members, where does that live? We need to build a central knowledge base, almost like the brain of the business, where any how-to information is stored. So after organize, we then need to integrate. That's the next step. And integrate is getting the team on board, getting them to buy in, getting them to go, yeah, we can follow this process. We know it's part of our job and it's our expectations. And then we have step number 6, which is scale. Scale is all about what are the other systems needed in your business to grow and scale, as in the first step identifies those core systems required to deliver your product or service, whereas
Mhm.
scale starts to think about how do we hire staff, how do we onboard them, how do we manage them, what are our management systems and our finance systems, and then lastly we've got optimize. Optimize is step number 7. It's actually one of the things that makes systemology a little bit different from any of the methodologies that came before it. We first seek to capture what we're doing and make everything repeatable, because your business is kind of already working. Most business just struggles with repeatability. And then it's not until we have a baseline, a solid base, that we then think about how do we improve these processes. So they're the 7 stages that you go through. It's define, assign, extract, organize, integrate, scale, and optimize.
Yeah, and the reason why I love this when I read the book was it makes so much sense. But oftentimes when we're making decisions or we're running the day-to-day operations, you try to do everything at once. And the mindset of optimization and the mindset of creating are two different things. So I
Yeah.
like that you kind of get the picture down. You can see what's actually happening, not what you think is happening, but what is actually happening from the perspective of whoever is the expert in that specific task. And then you focus on getting that codified. Then you can do the game of making the changes and ensuring that it's scalable, and ensuring that you have everything you need, the resources necessary to make the scalability scale a success. So no, I love that. And then I know a lot of people are like, man, I've been stuck in the assign phase. Actually, I've been stuck in the define phase for a
Yes.
while now. So give us an example. Like, how do we get out of that mindset of like where we're analyzing it and we kind of just never get out of that vicious cycle of do this as I need, and we're just
Yeah.
reactive versus being proactive.
Yeah. So there's an exercise in the book. You don't even need to buy the book to do the exercise, because I can explain it now and someone can, as they're
Now
listening to
that's
this,
honest right there, people. Did you hear that? He said you don't
there,
need to buy
there
the book.
you go. You just need a bit of paper and I can walk you through it. It's called the critical client flow. It's probably the thing that resonates with the readers and my audience the most, because it just simplifies your business. So through this exercise, we can uncover what are those first systems that you focus on. In the top left-hand corner of this bit of paper, you just write, what is your dream client? The person who pays your advertised prices, refers friends or family, and is a pleasure to deal with. Then we think about what is the primary product or service that we sell to them. So just pick one. It's where people might get started, that dream client. What is the first thing that they might buy from you? And we're just going to start focusing on systemizing that first, because we want to make sure that we can systemize how the business makes money. And then we just work down the page, and you astutely commented earlier where you were talking about, oh yes, well, we're capturing what we're currently doing and optimizing comes later. And that's one of the key rules in this critical client flow, which is only capture what you're currently doing, not what you would like to be doing. And there's a few reasons for this. Like, a big part of it is, as we go through this systemization process, we actually want to remove the business owner, or sometimes your highest skilled team members are the most busy team members, and they find it
Mhm.
hard to make space for this. So anything that we can do, if we're just capturing what we're currently doing, it's much easier to get a systems champion or someone responsible for this task. But we map the linear journey that the business goes through, starting off at the top with how do we grab the attention of your target audience. What are the ways that you're currently advertising or getting the word out about your business? That might be word of mouth, it could be social media, it could be organic SEO or paid, whatever it is. It could be newsletters. You capture the methods you're currently doing. Then we move down and we say, how do we handle the incoming inquiry after someone sees the advertisement? When they're ready to stick up their hand and say, I want to work with you, what happens? And then we move down, like, what does the sales process look like? And this is just very high level. You write it in boxes. You only put 2 or 3 words in those boxes, so it looks like a flow chart. And we work down from, okay, after we sell them, how do we take the money or send out an invoice or do the proposal? How do we get them onboarded and started with your business? And what information do we need? How do we then start to deliver the product or service? And then how do we hand over? You just use those boxes that I just went through there. You think 2 or 3 words in each boxes to describe that stage. That gives you a very high level, how does your business work? It's a great
Right.
starting point. And there will be more detail that goes underneath. There could be subsystems, especially when it comes to delivery of the product or service. That could be very complex. But we start off high level. We keep it very simple to start with. And the final thing I often do with this exercise, if someone wants to think about, well, where do I get started? I then ask, where in the critical client flow is the pain? Where is it that you know things are currently not working, or they would, people aren't getting the best experience, or it would break if you got 10 times the amount of clients that you have now? That sometimes can be an indicator on where to start.
No, I love this because oftentimes, I mean, being a business owner, I understand that sometimes we just like, hey, it just happens. Right?
Yeah.
We just do, and we've incorporated these complex systems to do some of the things you're talking about. When this is really a time, as you're getting this created, you start to see, right? Once you identify that pain, you're like, dang, I could have. This is why I lost X client, or this is why we couldn't lock this in, or this is why the follow up is falling through, whatever it is. So you start to think from your perspective when you do that analysis. This is why something isn't going the way we want it to go, and you see so many easy wins writing these things down that you've never written before. So as a service business, right, I've done this exercise. I've written down this thing, and it made me get rid of a lot of the systems and integrations with Zapier and all these other things, and just made it super, super scaled down. So I can attest to what you're talking about, David, as I walk through this. So when you mentioned that we can dive in a little bit more into the extract phase, we've done this exercise. We're clear on what's going on. We've assigned the task. We know who's the expert. We've written all these things down. So once we see the light, so to speak, and we understand the problems and where we can refine and everything, what next?
Yeah. So with extraction, as we mentioned, this is the one that's changed the most because of AI. And
Mhm.
it also used to be the one that required the most heavy lifting, and oftentimes where someone might fall off the path when they're systemizing their business, because your business, things gets busy, other things take your attention, the documentation is time consuming or used to be time consuming, so it's easy to then go, oh yes, I'll just put it on my to-do list. But we know, for any busy business person, or any busy person really, if documentation oftentimes is seen as important but it's never urgent, so you just don't get to it. But now with AI, uh, the steps that we can go through, like, it starts off with, first of all, we know what it is that we're extracting. We know whom we need to extract it from. Now we meet with them and we record them doing the task. So that could be a Loom, it could be a Zoom, it could be on your phone, it could be however you want to record it, whatever's easiest. And we record the person actually doing that thing. They're entering the lead into the CRM, they're issuing out an invoice, or they're doing part of the work, whatever it might be. And then we can take that video. There's a lot of services these days that will transcribe that video. So depending on what you're using, I mean, Loom, which is a tool that we use and recommend, it will transcribe it straight after the video's been recorded. We then take that transcription and you go over to ChatGPT and you say, hey, ChatGPT, I have a transcript from a video that outlines a process. Can you please write a draft for me and turn it into an SOP? It'll go off, do its thing. And then you start to, when you organize this information, you have a place like System Hub where you save it. You basically load that process into the place, you add the video, and then you get the human. We call this person the systems champion normally. It's the person who's got the responsibility of doing this task to review it, add in
Mhm.
any extra links, think about, has the machine, has AI missed any steps here? But it's so much quicker. Like it will take 1/10 the time of what it used to get
Absolutely.
a great quality output. And then the last trick of this, when we extract and we start to think about how we're organizing this, is you want to make sure that you're never more than one click away from the process when the person is doing the task. So that might be, once you've generated this process, you put that link into the description of the task you're assigning out in your project management software, or you add it as a description in the calendar invite to the task that's about to be done at hand, or you print out a QR code that links to the system that explains how to set up the equipment, and you stick it to the equipment itself.
Nice.
So right in the moment, as they're setting up the equipment, they can pull out their phone, scan it on the phone, the QR code, and jump straight to the process. So that
Love it.
whole process has now gotten infinitely easier. And now there's never been a better time to systemize than right now, and it's never been easier.
Absolutely. No, I love the use of AI. I mean, that's been a game changer for me for sure as a small business owner. So I can attest to that. We had a question that says, "What if your project is intangible? Tell us more." Magic. What do you mean if the project is intangible? Because I
As Magic types that in and we maybe get some more details, if I were to interpret a little bit, sometimes that can be almost like, and I'll give you an example. When we think about delivering the core product or service, some people say, it's hard for me to get down into all the micro detail. And oftentimes when something's intangible or it's hard to explain, you always just chunk up. As in, you start off simple and high level first, and you explain the key milestones, what actually happens to deliver the product or service. But I might have jumped the gun there, so I don't know if we get some
no,
extra detail.
I think that was good, but when I think about again, AI, right? If I type in what I do or what I'm aspiring to do within ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, whatever tool I use, and I give it as much detail as possible, it can usually at least spit something out. And I'm gonna say, hey, explain this, on a ninth grade level. This is what I'm trying to explain and convey, and do it in simplified terms. That's probably the best way you can do that, Magic, is to like use AI as your best friend. Use it as your advisor anytime you're thinking about something and it feels complex or abstract. To make it more tangible, I put it in AI to say, here's what I'm thinking, spit something out and let me know what you think. Or you can say who the audience is, like explain it as if you're talking to X audience, and it'll give you something real awesome that you can start with. All right. So you also, in your book, you don't not only give us the game on how to create systems, but you also say some myths of business systemization. And I feel like these myths are going to be very useful in this conversation because a lot of us have gone and we these myths are our facts. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the myths that's in the book? You don't need to
Yeah.
go really deep, but just tell us what the myths are.
Yes. So myths like, I'm going to need to create hundreds or thousands of systems to improve my business, when the reality is we can apply the 80/20. that 20% of the systems are going to impact 80% of the result that you're getting. And if we can really narrow in, like that's a big part of what the critical client flow is, that helps us understand that a critical few can actually impact things. There are other myths like that you're going to need complex software to do this, but in reality, simple is best. I mean, the way I explained it, never being more than one click away, is a really important one. People oftentimes think it's going to be time consuming, but again, going for simple, leveraging off AI, it's actually much quicker and much easier than you think. Um, Other myths include things like, what's the point of putting systems in place or documenting because my team is not going to follow the process? That comes from the business owner sometimes, who might not see themselves as a systems person. But the reality is, A players, great team members, they want to know how to do a good job. And systems and processes help to outline and set the expectation and says, this is how we do things here. So systems actually does the opposite, and your
Right.
team will follow the process.
But one key, I think, of how you're recommending we do the systems and create these things is the ownership from the team, because what you're
Yes.
doing is you're bringing in that expert, and they're going to love that, because as we know, research shows that there's two things that really people really care about when it comes to working at a high level, and that's making sure, one, they're doing meaningful work, and then two, that they're recognized. And in this process of providing them ownership and allowing them to show how they're doing things and creating your processes off of them, you're doing both. So I feel like it's also a great way to improve morale within your organization while you're also improving productivity and everything else by doing this.
The reality is, and I don't think there's any argument with anyone these days, that systems driven businesses deliver better outcomes and results for everybody.
Right.
Staff enjoy it, it makes for a greater working environment, reduces the chaos and brings a level of calm. It could also improve efficiencies, which business owners love. It's bringing profits to the bottom line. Clients love it because they're getting more consistent, higher quality work, and they can come to rely on the businesses that they're working with. And suppliers, people who interact with the business, like a systemized business is just more efficient and get things done on time and is better able to keep the promises that it makes. So from a, there's no arguing that systems don't add value. It's always about how do we make it happen? How do we bring this to a business? And how do we facilitate this change? Because it doesn't happen automatically. The chaos happens automatically. The organization uh, actually takes decisive thought.
Absolutely. And I have a question, like one of the things that happens when we talk about systems is a lot of times the key decision makers, they believe that they have systems in place already. So if I'm someone and I see that we need to, implement a system or optimize the system, how would you recommend we go about, presenting that to that key decision maker?
Yeah. Oftentimes I'll ask for, like, show me,
Mhm.
because that's people will say, yes, I've got a systemized business, or maybe I've got some processes in place, or we sort of have a way of doing things. You don't really have a way of doing things until it's actually documented, as in there's a checklist or there's a video that explains how it's done. So it's very much a show me type thing. And then when it comes to optimization, because we first seek to have repeatability and make
Mhm.
sure that things are happening consistently. Then we ask the question, and again, another area that's changed with AI, how can we take what we're currently doing and do it faster, cheaper, and better with AI? So this is actually where a lot of people go wrong with AI, because they go, oh, it can do this, it can do that, it can do so many things. Oh, now I don't really know what to do. I'm going to get it to do something that's not really part of my business, and I'm not doing it now. Whereas you should say, well, I'm already doing this task. How can we generate a prompt and make that step number 3, where we go to chat GPT and we ask it to proof that email before we send it out, and then we send it out? Like, getting AI to accelerate and produce to a higher standard will ensure that basically new profits drop straight to the bottom line because you're doing that thing already. Now
Right.
you're just able to do it that faster, cheaper, and better. So that optimization, there is a process in that, and that's becoming more and more important now that we're seeing where AI is headed. Like at the moment, that's another big thing I talk about, that the processes that you document today will become the programming of the machines tomorrow.
Yes.
So there's never been a more important time to get clear on what your processes are, because we are very shortly going to be in a time where you just say to the AI, hey, can you just do that for me? Can you go draft that up, save it in my email as an outbox ready for me to review, and it'll just go do it. So you want to have your processes identified and documented so that you can then feed it into the machine and then it will be able to execute on it. But I don't think a lot of business owners appreciate and realize what is about to happen and the change that we are about to see. It's already happening with AI agents and this transformation that we're exhibiting. It's moving at an extraordinary pace.
I yes, 100% agree. And that's a whole different topic that we can have another discussion. I just feel like 30 minutes went by so quick. There's so much information to unpack here. So really appreciate you diving deep on this process. I know that 30 minutes is like that, but how can people find you, David, if they want to continue this discussion, this conversation with you?
Yeah, look, always start with the book. Just head to amazon.com, search Systemology. That does a lot of my thinking, and the book is useful and complete. Great place to start. If you're listening to this, you might be an audio book person as well. There's a link to Audible as well if you want to listen to the book. And then if you want to go a bit deeper, just head over to systemology.com. We've got a YouTube channel and a podcast and a whole bunch of resources just to get you thinking about systems and processes and make the process even easier for you.
Awesome, man. Well, I definitely appreciate your time. If there was one takeaway that the listeners should go ahead and glean from you, what would that takeaway be?
I think just that you need to get started, because there's never been a more important time. It's never been easier. And I'm hoping that we've kind of lit the fire in someone today and had them go, you know what? I can do this and I will do this. And I can see the impact and benefit, because I've looked literally into thousands of businesses and I've seen businesses that have systems versus those that don't. And they're night and day difference. Like, you can't compare the two. This is a worthy task and something that every business owner, every business leader should be thinking about building up inside their organization.
I wholeheartedly agree. And you heard it here from the systemologist himself. So make sure you go ahead and get started. If you have any questions about implementing systems within your business, first start with Systemology, the book. And then, if you have any more issues or want to talk to David about implementation, go to systemology.com. Appreciate you so much, David. Appreciate you, listeners. Appreciate the engagement. And as always, keep ascending and make sure you subscribe, follow, message me, whatever it is, whatever platform you're on. I want to hear from you.